Hello and welcome to one of our North Bank Podcast Classic Editions, where we were joined earlier by a very special guest. Sit back and enjoy. I'm delighted to welcome to the North Bank Podcast a very special guest. I would suggest that he's definitely a member of Arsenal fan royalty now, having penned multiple Arsenal-themed books. And he's here to talk ostensibly about his latest book, the Welcome to the Goonerverse. Welcome, Dave Seager, aka Gooner Dave 66, as I've known you for years. So welcome and thank you very much for joining us for a chat. Before getting on to the books, though, I'm always fascinated when I meet new Arsenal fans or Arsenal fans that are new to me about how their kind of love affair started with Arsenal. Like, was it a person, an incident, like an accidental purchase of a football kit or something like that? A friend of mine's mother bought him an Arsenal kit for his birthday when he was about 6, and he was displeased with the colour, so he became a Spurs fan. So I'm just curious, what's your kind of connection with Arsenal? Why Arsenal? Where did it all begin?
Yeah, it's certainly a lot of people. It's a family thing. With me, my parents. I've got an older brother and sister. I was very, let's say, a mistake, and my parents were very sort of middle-aged by the time I came along, and senior middle-aged by the time I was ever going to be interested in football. So, and they weren't. That my dad wasn't into football, my mum wasn't into football. So I think we moved. I was born in the Midlands, funny enough. We moved to London in 1971, so it'd be lovely to say I became an Arsenal fan because Arsenal won the double when I moved to London, and that would be a lie. I need to tell that lie, but no, I think what it really was my sister's boyfriend. My sister being 13 years older than me, and I was 5, so she was 18. Her first real proper boyfriend was a massive Gooner. Used to go all the time. So I was just getting into playing football in the playground, and it was him who probably spoke to me about Arsenal. And I got bought a shirt, I think by him or my sister one Christmas, and that was it really. And it was, it had to coincide. We're talking, by the time I was really interested in football and understanding football, we're talking sort of 74, 75 probably. And it also we're just on the cusp of the new wave of the Bradys and the O'Learys and the Stapletons and the Rostrans and the Powlings, and it was that new generation coming through, and that was when I really started getting into it. And that same guy who's now my brother-in-law took me to my first game in 1976, Terry Neal's first season. So I went to 2 games with him that season, and that was the only 2 games I went to until I was a teenager and my parents would allow me to go on my own. So since then, about 81, I've been going non-stop ever since.
Do you have a favourite player as a kid growing up? Anyone you looked up to in particular?
Yeah. My late son was named after Liam Brady. I think anyone of that mid to late 70s generation would say the same. I suppose when I became a bit more mature and was going on my own, it would have been Charlie Nick and then David Rocastle. Right. I can't be very original, really. They were the players, but if Antonio Adams, that sort of at Rocastle Adams, that sort of first team, because although I saw this, I saw the FA Cup finals on telly in the late 70s. My first going, if you like, my first live Wembley experience was 87. So it was Rocastle Adams, that sort of early George Graham, that first trophy, that first Wembley win against Liverpool. So special team for me, that team.
Can I just ask, what made Liam Brady so special?
The same thing that made David Rocastle so special, in that you had this incredible mercurial skill and talent, but the tenacity and the tackling, it's that rarity of a player that has. It's like a Bergkamp, really. He can do anything with the ball, but he can win the ball back. He can tackle as hard as anyone. And Brady was the same. He just had that tenacity to win the ball back. But once he won the ball back, what he could do with it was just unbelievable. Some of the passing was just. It was just so exciting to see a young player that we brought over from Ireland, that we produced. I mean, there were 3 of them, obviously. 4 if you include John Devine, to be fair. But yeah, there's this incredible sort of talents that we'd found, and Brady was just And also, it was a period where we were awful. When I was introduced to Arsenal, we actually finished in the bottom six, I think, 74, 75, 76. I mean, we were skirting with relegation. People forget that. Bertie and me had done wonders, but if that team had broken up for whatever reason, and people have different arguments on that, but we were pretty poor when I started supporting us, and Brady was the great hope. But just, incredible. And just, I mean, I'll never forget sort of 7, 8 years later when he came back, having played for 4 Italian sides, when he came there for West Ham. I mean, playing, for West Ham. I mean, he did a lap of honour before the game, and the whole of Highbury was singing, Brady, 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 Brady. And he was playing for West Ham. I mean, he got 38,000 people singing about Brady who was playing for another team. I can't remember any time that's happened in my football sporting career that we are singing as a stadium for an opposition player in the same league. It's not even a European visiting team. It's actually a team that we had to beat, and everyone's singing about Brady. Quite incredible.
Yeah, he had a cultured left foot, didn't he? I mean, he's unfortunately a little bit just marginally before my time. My first Arsenal memory is watching the Trevor Brooking final, unfortunately, 1980. So kind of missed Brady, but there's that goal that constantly gets shown at White Hart Lane where he just, with the outside of the left foot, just curls it into the far corner. It's just a thing of beauty.
No, twice. It went one way and then went back the other. Don't even know how he did it. I'm sure he doesn't know how he did it. But incredible. I mean, he was just, in 79 when we won the FA Cup and he won Players Player of the Year, Football Right, he won everything that year. We didn't win. I mean, obviously we didn't win the league or anything, but he was the best player in the league.
We were
unfortunately, the final you remember is, if you read his autobiography, not the more recent one, and there's an earlier one, a biography actually, I think, he wasn't fit in 78, but was too young and was so excited to play his first Wembley final. He basically told Terry Neal and Don Howe that he was fit enough to play, and he regrets that to this day because, an unfit Liam Brady, wasn't good enough to beat Ipswich. 79, he was fully fit and he was majestic. And 1980, again, he said he wasn't fit and they made him play. So of those 3 finals, we won one of them where he was fully fit. The other 2, he wasn't fully fit and we didn't win them. That's how important he was.
Yeah. I was going to ask you as a follow-up question, what's a favourite childhood memory related to football, but I'm guessing it involves Liam Brady.
Well, it was that whole 79 thing because I was too. I mean, I wasn't going in those days, but I remember I was watching it at home with a friend who was also an Arsenal fan, and of course we were 2-0 up, and my parents, who didn't really understand, it was a lovely, glorious May day, sunny outside. They were in the garden, sort of out the way. It was that whole cup final thing in those days, loads of sweets. The programme started at 9:30 in the morning. The whole day you were sort of 12, 13, probably completely, eat up with sweets you've been eating all morning, and we were just running out of the garden. It's 1-0, Mum and Dad, running in again. It's 2-0, Mum and Dad, running in again. And then nothing, and then it was 2-1, and it was 2-2. And then we scored with the Alan Sunderland goal at the end. So that's probably my favourite sort of early childhood memory. I would have been 13, but a young 13.
I'm very annoyed that I'd love to tell people that was my first childhood memory, but I was 6 in 79. I was 7 in 80, but I do remember that because we were expected to win the 1980 Cup final, weren't we? But
having gone through the marathon against Liverpool as well, who were the best team in the country, having beaten them over 4 games, 3 games I can't even remember. Neil, it was 3 draws and then we beat them 1-0 with Brian Talbot. I mean, having got past Liverpool, you just got to play West Ham. They weren't even in the same division.
Yeah, good old Arsenal, isn't that how the song goes?
Yeah.
Okay, so fast forwarding then a couple of decades or a few decades. Well, let's limit the number of decades since then. Really, you've obviously found yourself penning quite a few books on the Arsenal, and your latest offering is Welcome to the Goonerverse. Now, you're talking to 2 English teachers, so poetry is something we're really familiar with. But I must admit, it's not something I automatically connect with football. I know chanting is maybe, you need to be a good wordsmith for getting chants going. But poetry and football, Dave, that's like and you have pulled it off quite fantastically as well, but we'll get onto that. But talk us through where it kind of began, where the idea for this derived from and the inspiration behind Welcome to the Goonerverse.
Well, there's two sort of pincer movement, really. The 3 of the 4 books prior to this were the sort of Magic Hat trilogy. So you had Double Double, Double Double to Invincible Bubble, and Thrillness to Wilderness, which are basically the history of Wenger's tenure, but the whole thing's rhyming couplets from start to finish. And I've always found that, with doing quizzes or treasure hunts for the kids, I've always found just rhyming, couplets, very basic. Well, it's good in Shakespeare, as I always say. But rhyming couplets, I've always found that quite easy. So those 3 books I would call them poetic or rhyming rather than poetry. I've always, I find that, like some people find different forms of writing easily, rhyming I find relatively easy. So that's one side. The other side, as we touched on before we went on air, was sadly I lost my my son, aged 24, in 2019, and sort of threw myself into work. And then we had a coroner's inquest in February of 2020, and then we went into lockdown almost immediately afterwards. And obviously we all had so much time on our hands, and that was the last thing I missed. I think I'd probably coped in a blokey sort of way by keeping myself incredibly busy, or kidded myself I was coping. Whereas my wife and my daughters were, seeking counselling, reading books, to deal with grief and loss, and I wasn't, just wasn't. And then I hit a wall, and my wife said to me, "Well, you need to, like I do, you need an outlet for what's going on in your head. And if you're not going to talk to a counsellor, you need to at least get it out, write it down. You're all right to write it down." So basically, the poetry thing started on dog walking, really, just on my phone, as I did. But all the poems were about loss and about grief, and how my friends and acquaintances and other people deal with grief, the frap that people say to you, And so, but it was all about grief and loss, but also about my relationship with Liam. And of course, a lot of my relationship with Liam was related to football. He was a very good footballer. He played for Bournemouth. He played for Eastleigh. He came to Arsenal with me. So there were 3 or 4 poems in this huge anthology I ended up with that were Arsenal related, and they've just sat on the shelf really, because it wasn't for publishing, it was just for me. Although I have shared that anthology with people who've been through similar or different types of loss. And it just sat there really, and I was thinking of a new idea, and I guess you might have a different perspective as English teachers, but I sort of have the feeling that it's easy to write about something when you're passionate about it. And obviously Arsenal's been my outlet, for years, before I lost Liam. But it was just that outlet, because it's easy to write when you really feel strongly about something. And I figured, well, if I write those poems about Liam and football, why can't I write football poems? It was just a thought, and I started penning a few. And, some of them were okay, some of them weren't. I started speaking to my creative advisor, a lovely friend of mine called Anushree Nand, who's a brilliant writer, and sort of bouncing ideas off her. And I thought, well, I'm not going to, I'm not good enough or have enough time or kid myself that I can write an anthology myself. But if I start writing a few poems, why don't I see, other Gooner writers, friends of mine with a creative bent fancy getting involved. So hence Dave Seager and Friends. So it really isn't, there are more poems for me than anyone else, but there's more people, there's more poems for other people than me, if you know what I mean. So I can't remember how many exactly. There's probably 70, I think 71, and maybe, I don't know, 14, 15, 16 of mine. The rest are, people that everyone knows. Tim Stillman, Paul Cassidy, Pos, Boyd Hilton from Arsenal Tastically Pod, a lot. Paul Kay, the actor, Michael Rosen, probably the most famous. As an English teacher, you'll know Michael Rosen's probably written 250 books by now. In fact, the 12th of November was Michael Rosen Day, wasn't it? So, so there's a lot of people who contributed. But you're right. Also, you said, long answer to a short question, it is brave, because my publisher said, well, I love what you're doing, and you've done 6 books that have done okay for me, so I'll let you do it. But I don't think football fans will buy poetry. So, they are starting to. The pre-orders are gradually increasing. A lot of fans are buying it in the American supporters club. So we'll see. I think, you can call it poetry, as you say, chants of poetry, football, pop lyrics of poetry. People can get frightened by the concept of poetry. I think what this book is, and you've had, I've given you a preview, but a lot of them are just great stories about, you asked me how I fell in love with Arsenal, those poems are in there. You asked me about favourite memories, those poems are in there. You could talk about what a match day looks like is something everyone has a match day. You know, people have rituals, people have superstitions, all these aspects of being a supporter from various sources have come into this book. So it's a plethora of football emotions from all angles. So I don't think people need to be frightened about reading and thinking, poetry, that's not for me, that's very middle class. I think it's just football stories, football memories, you know, football hopes.
Yeah, it's an amazing read, I must admit. I mean, I'll give you a bit of background. Steph sent me the PDF, and I had a group of 6 year 11 students sat in the room with me, and they were doing a little more minor exam practice question. And so I thought I'll start reading it. So I read the foreword, and then I read your poem, I Hope You Knew. And that was a mistake to start reading that.
From the original, that was obviously from the original Greek anthology, yeah.
And it was like, sir, what's wrong? No, I've got something in my eye. It's all right. It's fine. And I was like, okay. And I then I felt compelled. I read the whole thing, and it is I could identify with certain sentiments and feelings and experiences in every poem. You know, aspects of every poem would speak, because they're not maybe little stories, they're mini stories, they're just packaged within the form of a poem, but they're little stories and life stories and a depth and breadth of experiences and so on. I did jot down 3 that stood out that just I loved Only by Paul Hepker. I hope I've got his name right.
I'm glad you said that, because that was one that
my
really...
partner on Gunnerstown. He's my partner on Gunnerstown.
Oh, right.
Wow.
So his Only is, I just absolutely love it, because it opens with, it's only a game, she said, and then it ends with, she's only a memory, and everything in between. I just thought it was just fantastic. I thought it was brilliant.
He is the most irritatingly creative and brilliant person. He's a film composer. He's written themes to films you've watched at the cinema. You know, he writes poetry. He's a brilliant artist. He's a brilliant writer. He's just an artistic guy. But that poem, you are right, it's brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
Absolutely loved it. I also Red and White Angels by Alf Stewart. I thought, wow, fair play. That was an amazing poem, so powerful. I've just wrote down the word powerful alongside it. It was just like brilliant piece of writing. I thought it was fantastic.
If you look behind Steph, where he's got all those Arsenal books, Alf Stewart owns every Arsenal book. Yeah, so every book I've ever written, however bad, he's bought. So when I said I was going to do this, I said, Alf, look, I'm doing this. Do you want to be involved? Because you buy every Arsenal book. You know as much about Arsenal literature as anyone. Do you fancy writing a poem? Had no idea what was going to come back. But as you say, powerful is a perfect. I mean, for people who are listening, it's basically, it's about being abused at home and finding solace and an escape in going to the Arsenal. So he's bared his soul. In the book.
It was the type of poem I read it and I just stopped and just kind of processed it for a few moments and then read on. But it stayed with me. And the third one, and I didn't know who'd written this. I read the poem first before looking at who'd penned them. And it was The Glorious 70s. Made me laugh quite a bit. Paul Kay's The Glorious 70s. I thought that those 3 kind of very different. Very different.
Amazing how many people didn't realise who Paul Kay was.
Oh right. Well, I know him as Dennis Pennis. That's
yeah. But people, I think people knew he was Dennis Pennis, but didn't realise Dennis Pennis had done something after Dennis Pennis. You know, being in Game of Thrones and being in,
loads.
1,000 Acres of Sky and Vera. He's a brilliant actor.
Yes.
I was fortunate enough to meet him in 2016 when I did the Supporting Arsenal's a Funny Old Game book, where I interviewed all the different sort of Arsenal supporting comedians, and I had to say, without any disrespect to friends of mine like Ian Stone and Alex Brooker in the book, that was my favourite chapter. Paul Kay he's just an incredible guy. I wouldn't say his friend. I just WhatsApp him now and again. I said, I'm doing this. Do you want to be in it? He said, let me think about it. And then, yes, I do. Give me a week. And he sent that back. And just about being a teenage fan in the 70s. But then the one after that from Gareth Skinner is about being a fan in the 80s. And one of the ones I loved is my friend Dave Grinnell writing about the North Bank surge. That was my experience in being in the North Bank as a teenager, not really seeing the goals, just being part of it. And that surge when you knew we were going to score or were just about to score, or the anticipation. They're so evocative. All three of those poems just take you back.
Yeah, I mean, Steph's got your comedian's book behind him. He's got that on the shelf.
Yeah.
Great read.
I remember Paul Kay. I don't remember which year. I'm going to say about 98, but it could be basically outside the 12 pin celebrating either an FA Cup or another double, and there was a football, and every time a double-decker, I mean the streets were just thronged, and this football was just going over and back between the 12 pins and whatever's across the road, but in particular when there was a double-decker bus driving past, and he was front and centre. He was loving it, absolutely loving it.
Well, that's where, but he as Steph will know if he's read the book, he was about a year sober in 2016, but back then was probably one of the last years when he was still drinking. I mean, he was, he drank a lot. It's a brilliant story in this book, and I don't know why it always comes back to me, is that, when you talked about at the beginning about people making up chants, making up songs, and that's the ingenuity of a football fan, isn't it? You suddenly get that song and think, where did that come from? It's so good. And he said to me in the book, and I can't believe it never took off, he was trying, can't remember what pub he was in, him and his mates were trying to get a song going for Sylvain Wiltord, and it's like, you're Sylvain, I bet you think this song is about you. How on earth did that never become a chant? That you're Sylvain. I bet
Works perfectly.
It's in my head now.
Level. Yeah, on every level it works.
Is it too late? Is it too late?
Yeah. But if he comes back to visit, when they get the old players on the pitch, we should start it.
Yeah,
just perfect. Yeah, no, Paul Kay, funny guy.
Yeah, Steph, did you have any poems that you picked out? Or...
Well, I mean, yes. I mean, we were speaking before even Dave arrived, and now you've mentioned these really, heartfelt and moving ones. I'm going to lower the tone maybe ever so slightly, and I just really liked, because it sort of fits in with what you wrote in the foreword, Dave, or the introduction, where you sort of said that everyone views football differently, so the poems have all got those different textures, because over time they carry memories, yes, and then for some people the result of a match carries more importance for some people. And you said about, as you've got older and the perspective in your life, you can, laugh them off, and you see the sort of the irrelevance sometimes of
well, it's more since I lost Liam, to be fair. I mean, it's when you used to have a result and we would be exchanging WhatsApps when he was at uni about, Shaka this or whatever, and you just suddenly, when something like that's happened to you,
exactly,
it's football
perspective.
And even I found
it's the quote I use in the intro, which is football is the most important thing of the unimportant things in life.
That's it,
and that's why that's the way I view it now. And that was actually one of the comedians in the book said that, but I didn't claim it as my own now. But that's the thing, and that's why my poem, the joy of football, is there's always another Arsenal match, and that's my. And I do have to completely accept that my take is probably the minority. I was like everyone else. I'm no longer like everyone else, so I can't get on my high horse about it, because it's just me. It's not, I'm not trying to dictate that everyone else shouldn't care and shouldn't get angry with referees, but I just don't. It's just I'm just in a different place. So,
well, that sort of ties in with the one that stuck out to me, because it's right towards the end, and it's the one, things I've shouted watching Arsenal. And it equated me, because I remember when I was in my sort of teens and 20s, I would get furious. It would ruin my whole week depending on what had happened to Arsenal, because you go into college or into work and everyone's on you. But as I've got older, I've sort of mellowed, and I've recognised, sometimes just the better team wins. But then I've definitely shouted some of those things. And also there's a wonderful joke at the end where it sets up one thing and then goes in a completely different direction, which I even had to send to my father-in-law, because he's a big football fan, or he's a Norwich fan.
Of course, you're going to buy him the book for his Christmas present.
Absolutely, for Christmas, it's going to go in the stocking. Yeah, absolutely perfect stocking filler.
Actually, we mentioned the book because that author of that poem was James Ralph Stokes, who used to be a blogger when I started blogging 2011, 2012. So I've known him since then. But him and Paul Kay were the only two poets who asked before they submitted poems, is it all right to swear? And of course, and of course it is. But this is one of these compromises I had to make, is because obviously I want Arsenal to stock the book, and they will be, so I had to put effing instead of, fucking, because, and Paul Kay, I said, I'm going to put effing, and Paul Kay said straight away, I've got no problem with you writing F star K, but I'm not having effing. Otherwise, if you want to put effing, I withdraw my poem. So yeah, those were the two that said, well, it won't be the same if it's not effing, proper effing.
Yeah.
So we just had to use the
excellent
star,
work.
just in case children buy it, or yeah.
And so, when is the book out and available to buy? I know you can pre-order it. You can pre-order it now.
She's coming back next week. So the printed, my publisher always prints, because it's more cost effective in Poland. So they are due back next week. So anyone who's pre-ordered will have a book in the post, a week after the next latest, probably late next week. So now is a good time to buy, because you'll get it very quickly.
Perfect for the Christmas shopping.
That's the whole plan. I mean, that's why there are people who submitted poems after a deadline. Everyone knew the deadline. It was a case of getting out for Christmas. And obviously we want to make some money for the Arsenal Foundation, who get £1.50 from every book as well. But it's people who don't write books, and it's any sort of write books, but it's not a profitable business. And if you're a small publisher like Legends, who do a lot of great football books, but it's a one-man band, the reason we do the pre-order thing is it helps him gauge how many books to print, because it's his money. He's spending the thousands of pounds to print the books, and if they don't sell, he's got stock that he can't ship. So the pre-order period of 4 to 6 weeks is to give him an idea. Certainly for the first 2 or 3 weeks before he presses print, if there's a massive influx of orders straight away, he'll print however many. If it's a trickle, he'll print however many. So that's why there's a elongated. And also the wholesale thing, like your Amazon and your Waterstones. If it's a £17 book and we're giving £1.50 to charity, Waterstones will ask for it for £7.50 or £8. They'll buy if they, so we don't do that till later, because they screw the small writer and they screw the small publisher. It's just, it's just not cost effective as an amateur writer and a small publisher to do it that way. So, but no, imminently, if you order now, you'll get it, very, very soon.
Well, I certainly will be doing that, and I would absolutely advocate and recommend everybody else do that as well. It is a fantastic read, and it is once you start, you can't stop kind of experience reading the book. Just don't start reading it in front of a group of students. That's my advice.
But equally, you can pick it up and put it down again. If that's your bent as well. It's not like a novel that you can, the 6 sections. It's sort of, the poems lent themselves, some people talk about match day, some people about how they fell in love with the club, some people talk about players or managers. So there are comic and curious, there are different sections. And I had to decide, but some could have gone in one or the other, to be honest. But there's 6 different sections.
And good photography in there as well.
Yeah, I mean, Susanna Ferreira is a brilliant photographer. There's a few others, obviously. North Banks is in there, because Susanna's photos are predominantly, of fans in and around the stadium or in the stadium. She shoots for Arsenal, so we got the club's permission to use the photos. That's why the photos, most of them are fan stories, so fan photos was perfect to accompany them. But if they're inside the stadium, they're Arsenal's property, so we don't have to get individual permission. If we use any of our photos outside the stadium, in theory, we're supposed to find those individuals and get them to sign off. They're happy to have their image. Whereas inside the stadium, it's Arsenal's image rights. So that's why the photos that from Susanna are only inside the stadium. But they are brilliant, and it's so great that Arsenal are using, her as a young, up and coming photographer. She's so talented, but they just fitted perfectly, in the main. And there was a few other people I used, just friends off Instagram, and obviously North Banksy is a friend of mine as well, which fitted very well. So hopefully they trade off and complement the written word.
Excellent. Well, no, it looks. I can't wait to see it in its hardback.
Yeah, hardback. Yeah.
Can't wait to see it in all its glory. A good stocking filler, definitely ahead of Christmas. Before Steph, do you want to say anything?
No, not in particular. No, just like I say, I've just really enjoyed it, and I had that same sort of trepidation of thinking poetry and football, but like you say, actually, it's stories, and not to get too English teachery, those ones that are just about outpouring. Well, there's a great tradition of poetry which is all about just emotion and letting that kind of thing out. And yeah, there are some that are thinking more about the craft and the meter, if we want to go down that road. But actually,
there are some
that
professional
outpouring.
poets in there who approach me.
Yeah.
There are professional poets, very,
Absolutely.
very highbrow. I mean, the one about the first game with we had 11 black players. That guy's, he's written several poetry books, and it's brilliant. They approached those people, saw things on social media and approached me, so it's fantastic. So yeah, it is a rich diversity of styles, accomplishment as a poet. Previously, I saw I answered a comment on Blue Sky of Fred's, so about calling yourself a poet, and I think it's for someone else to call you a poet. I wouldn't call. I don't think you should call yourself. I mean, maybe if you've written like Michael Rosen, he can call himself a poet. But someone who's just putting poems on Instagram, wait for someone else to say, "Yep, you're a poet." Don't say I'm a poet. I don't think I'm a poet. But then equally, I think Billy Bragg's one of the best poets, of the modern era. When people think he's a pop star, he is a pop star. But read the lyrics; they're amazing. But I think a lot of Bernie Taupin, Elton John, look at the love. It's just, what is poetry? It's just telling a story in a different way.
Yeah, absolutely. Can't let you go without getting your take on the current season, though.
Yeah.
What are you? I don't know about you, but we're certainly enjoying this international break. It seemed to come. We bemoan every international break, but this one was kind of more welcome to us, just to give us a little bit of a break from our poor run of injuries or form or whatever.
Well, particularly when we heard that Odegaard was coming back from Norway as well, which made it even better.
Yes.
Yes. I think also with the Ben White news, it gives us a couple of weeks to get Calafiore, back up to speed. So it's interesting because, no one wants to see Ben White out, but he's been playing through pain for us. And, I think a lot of people might like to see what Timber and Calafiore looks like. So we should be in a strong position. I'm a bit worried about Declan Rice. I don't know how long you can carry on playing with a broken toe. I seem to recall Gary Lineker didn't manage it very long, many years ago. But I don't know. But no, I'm like anyone, I'm interested to see the dynamic, because at the start of the season, I think everyone thought, it's going to be Marino left 8, Odegaard right 8, and Declan Rice back to 6. But Partey has just probably been our most accomplished midfield player this season. So tricky decision. And then everyone thought, Marino's not what we thought he was. And then against Chelsea, when he came on, he was fantastic. So, nice position to be in. Nice position to be in. It's like back in 2004 when everyone knew it was Gilberto Vieira, but it didn't make any difference who Parlarelli who played. They were just great players. So we're in a position where we've got 4, if you include Jorginho, 5 top quality international midfield players. We haven't been in that position for a long time. All we need now is a striker who's going to put a lot of goals in the back of it. Yeah.
Yes.
Or old Kai. Yeah, I don't think it's Kai's fault. I think it's Jesus who's the problem, isn't it? It's just don't know what's happened to him. Started 2 seasons ago like a train. And,
yeah. I think we took our eye off the ball a little bit in the summer transfer window. I think, Arteta hasn't actually signed a striker, ostensibly an out-and-out striker yet. And I know we shared the goals a lot last season, but we still always felt, Kai went on that amazing run from January to May. Yeah. We kind of always felt that there was, we need this clinical finisher, be it from the left-hand side or through the middle. There was just that maybe lacking something potentially. And Odegaard missing for 9 weeks was, you're missing your best player, your most creative player. That's going to cause you.
I still think there's merit in seeing Martinelli, playing closer to the centre. Frustrates the hell out of me on the left. He's got best the last few weeks, but every fullback in the country worth his salt knows exactly what he's going to do, and you can't be playing for a title-winning side if you're going to cut in, and the fullback knows you're going to cut in. So he has to go on the outside sometimes and use his left foot, and that's, as I say, when people ask me, that's the difference. 2 years ago, Saka and Martinelli were at the same level. Now Saka's world class and Martinelli hasn't changed, because Martinelli's doesn't use his wrong foot, and Saka uses both now because the fullback hasn't got a clue what Saka's going to do, and that's the difference. So therefore, I think you either stop playing Martinelli on the touchline, or you say, sorry, mate, until you start kicking with both feet, you're going to be a squaddy like he was from February to May when Trossard was playing. And I don't want to do that. I think Martinelli's ceiling should be crazy, but he's got to start using both feet. Or we play him like Henry and from the left, but basically he's our centre forward. And that would be a bit of a rethink for Arteta, and I don't think he's ready for that.
No, he seems wedded to particular styles of play. What do you think about our hopes for the season then? Looking ahead, we're 9 points behind Liverpool, 5 behind City. But we've had a tough run. I mean, we've played 5 of the top 6 away from home, so we're in a great position. You know, I think in the next 4 or 5 games, that could be reversed. Liverpool have played Chelsea and Arsenal, both Chelsea away and Arsenal home. No, Arsenal. Sorry, they played us. We played them at home, but I think apart from Chelsea and Arsenal, they haven't really. Well, that's it.
City. They haven't played Villa. You know,
they've only played Liverpool only played one of the other top 9 away from home. We've played 7, and that's mental. Like, and so if they're in the top 9, they're obviously playing well. They're on a good bit of form themselves, and we've played away at all of those teams. It's like, I think we're still totally in it. I mean, it's always, I think come January the 1st, we'll have a look at the table then. But I think we're well within it. But I do think, this is a massive season. Not for me. I'll still be there, but I do think we are in a situation where we have to win silverware. Not because for me, because I think 2 or 3 players will be headhunted in the summer if we don't. Well, Saliba.
I think Saliba will be massively sought after, and I think Saka's is Arsenal through and through. But he will be 24, one of the best players in the world, and one. He didn't get on the pitch when we won the FA Cup, so he's not really tasted it, and he deserves to. So other guys the same. So we're all on long-term contracts. We're in a position of strength, but Barcelona and Real Madrid, if they come calling, however crap their finances are, it doesn't make any difference. It's a big pull. So we need to, I think we start by winning we win the Carabao Cup. We've got every chance of winning the Carabao Cup. We've got a favourable draw, win that, and use it as a platform. Give ourselves the confidence, get the first winners medal for a lot of those players together, and see where it takes.
Well, the quadruple's still on, so
absolutely.
I mean, I am more I'm more the positive one of our particular group, and I do feel that we've got a chance this season. I don't think that 9 points is insurmountable, largely because of that fixture list, the run that we've had against the opposition that we've had. It again down to 10 men in 3 games as well. Circumstances have conspired against us.
Yeah, we should have beaten City. I mean, we had that game, really. We'll be
right. That's Steph, you good?
No, brilliant. Thank you so much for coming on and talking about this great poetry collection. Welcome to the Goonerverse. Yeah, I really hope it all goes well, and I look forward to getting it.
Thanks for letting me spout on about it. If you put the link up, I don't know. I can't recite the link, but obviously it's Legends Publishing. You'll find it, but I'm sure you'll put the link in. When you
absolutely, on all our social medias. We're now on
mine.
Sky.
I see. It is £1.50 to the Arsenal Foundation for every book sold as well. So good cause behind the book as well.
Lovely. Well, thank you very much, and best of luck with that and your next Arsenal themes book. I'm sure it's in the planning stages already.
No. Well, welcome to the Goonerverse 2.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, now I know 2 English teachers. I've got.
Yeah, we'll have to do something for that, won't we? Yeah.
Excellent. Well, we look forward to that already.
Yes, guys.
Sort of. All right. Cheers, Dave. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
thanks,
bye
Dave.
now.
Thank you.
Bye.
See you soon. Take care.
The North Bank, an Arsenal podcast. Subscribe, rate and review on your app And find us on Twitter, Instagram and TikTok at NorthBankPod. Email hello@thenorthbankafc.com and check out our website, thenorthbankafc.com. Produced by The Podcast Company.